Hello there, Ray here, and TNT duplicating is back for 1.13.1. Today I'm going to show you some designs I came up with, as well as a little bit of history of it, and some other designs other people came up with. I made these two designs based off of Harvey, a Chinese community technical player, and you can see this design up front is a one-directional design. It's also one wide and consists of only 11 blocks, and it's duplicating the TNT, and it's also pushing it a little bit forward because of the slime block. This design in the back is a different one, and in between them you can see there is a little engine that is moving them. Now this design back here is a two-directional one, meaning that if I would reverse this engine, it would allow the TNT to duplicate not only in this direction, but also in this direction. This one's doing the exact same thing where it's duplicating, but instead of getting pushed forward, it is just dropping straight down and blowing up. The new TNT duplicators are somewhat of what you see in 1.12, but a lot has changed since there, as well as throughout the 1.13 snapshots there was quite a few changes. All the way up to 1.13.1 there had some changes as well, which made duplicating TNT slightly different. When the 1.13 snapshots came out, Mojang pushed to try to fix TNT duping, and even though people quickly came up with a fix to it, it was clear that Mojang was intending to try to remove TNT duping from the game. And because of this, a lot of the TNT dupers from thereafter were kept private in private communities or in private chats to avoid them being fixed by the Mojang developers. Although for the most part these communities kept it a secret, there were some communities like the Chinese community which chose to show some of their inventions throughout the snapshots, and even in 1.13, which is totally up to them. But when people such as Azumovoid used it, then it kind of brought attention to it, and Mojang went ahead and tried to fix it again. Now there's no fault in Azumovoid for going ahead and using it, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. With the 1.13.1 TNT dupers, it was pretty much kept a secret for most of the technical community, besides the Chinese community, which known about it. And for this, we went ahead and tried to keep it a secret. The idea was to keep it secret until they announced that if they were going to try to go for a 1.13.2 update, or if they were going straight to a 1.4 update. With confirmation that there wasn't going to be a 1.13.2 update, it was decided among those that were involved in the TNT duping setups that they would all release videos about this at the same time. Unfortunately, one of the members of that community mistaken the video that Acheron and I did about carpet and rail duping as a video that was exposing TNT duping, which was far from the truth. The channel was about TNT duping as well as different types of bedrock breaking that was going on in 1.13.1. And our video was only about carpet duping as well as rail duping. Our video was just an updated version from our previous video, which was about carpet duping and rail duping, and it's pretty much showing the exact same techniques. And the reason we showed this at this time was because previously a person called Grimly showed that you could come around and change our technique up a little bit and get it to work in 1.13.1. And we wanted to do a follow-up video explaining his technique as well as the techniques that we came up with, which were slight modifications of our 1.13.0 carpet duper so that it would work in 1.13.1. And it just so happened other people also came up with a technique similar to ours to make the rail as well as carpet duping work good for 1.13.1, despite our designs being worked on for months in advance and throughout the snapshots as we upgrade them, and even having proof that we've been working on them throughout this time. This individual chose to go ahead and try to publicly humiliate us for our own work. Not only was this unnecessary, as I stated before, but it was also unreasonable, as this person chose not to contact us whatsoever, but instead go ahead and upload his own video criticizing us, as well as accusing us as showing off the TNT duping. Ironically, by posting his video first, he became the first person to show off the secret, which he vowed not to. The unfortunate part about this scenario is this type of behavior is common among a couple individuals in the technical Minecraft community, and has been ongoing for quite some time. This doesn't make this individual, or the couple others who've done similar things in the past, bad people. They just repeatedly made poor choices. I'm sorry for having to take time out of my video to explain this, as usually these type of attacks are easily recognized as being malicious and ignored by the majority of the technical Minecraft community. The thing as this one was done in a channel that was only consist of 6 people, so we had to take time to explain this, and other individuals of this group have also confirmed that our carpet and rail duping had nothing to do with the TNT duping or other things that were shown in this private channel. Before I go into each of these individual examples, I want to go over a quick history of what different challenges occurred during the process of the snapshots as well as 1.13, which made TNT duping to what it is today. All the individuals that contributed to this process can be found in the description. So right off, after going into 1.13 snapshots, once the main type of TNT duping was removed, went back to the drawing board. The easiest way to do this is by putting stuff out, not having it being a fly machine, but laying it down as being a redstone circuit. In this case, it was quickly recognized that TNT duping was still in the game, It just had to do with butting the pistons and moving it in the correct order so that it would update the TNT prior to it being moved, and that way it would produce a TNT entity, then still get moved afterwards. This had to do with a lot of locational stuff that didn't always work in some directions. This is a typical setup where you would see for like a 1.12 TNT duplicator, where this TNT is being butted because this block, which is being powered by this rail, was pushed in afterwards, so the TNT doesn't know that he should be powered from it. But as soon as the TNT is updated, he will turn into an entity. So the problem with this type of flag machine is that the TNT was ignoring the power source that was over here in most circumstances, and to fix that, you would have to update the TNT, then move the whole contraption in such a way that it got updated and produce an entity, as well as move the actual block itself forward. So this means you had to pretty much tell this TNT that he's being powered, and the way that was done is by using two different flag machines. Here's a simplified version. You kind of see how it works. If one would move, then it would start updating this TNT, and the next one would move. This could cause it to duplicate. This next design was pretty much throughout the entire snapshots and pretty much through 1.13 as well as 1.13.1, and it still works. And this design is pretty nice because it is non-directional, and you can see how it works. It pretty much will power this in such a way that it's butted, and then this redstone torch here will update it as it moves forward, and as you can see, it will update it and cause the TNT to duplicate. And for the most part, this has not changed at all and was kind of the future of TNT duplicating, except that the problem was the player would have to place in the torch on the back here. These next designs came quite a bit later, and this one was where you pretty much do the same thing as that one over there, except TNT was getting updated by a different type of block, which here you see there is a button, and as it would move forward, it would duplicate. It didn't always work in some areas, but when it did, it would work consistently. And then from there, eventually moved over to the coral fans, which are quite buggy if you've seen some of my snapshots. They have a lot of inconsistency with other blocks, and they can be moved. And with this, they're able to get moved and make the breaking animation, which allows the TNT to be updated if placed in the correct order. And all these designs are based off of that. Like I said, this is just a really simplified explanation of what happened. If you want to see the in-depth of different people coming up with these different designs, please check out the description down below. People that were part of this group on Discord was Nessie, Myron, Coolman, Ida, Earth, Ed, Example, as well as Harvey and myself. Based off of Harvey's discoveries with the dead coral plants, I came up with all these different designs, and this is Harvey's original design over here. As you can see, when it is powered, we have a dead coral plant that's in there next to TNT to update it. And the TNT is also butted by this block over here, which is being powered by this detector rail, which Minecraft is sitting on top of. So as soon as this updates, it's going to be in the proper order, where the TNT is going to make an entity, the entity is going to be able to fall, and then the rest of the blocks are all going to move forward. If I power this, you'll be able to see that occurring. And this way it's set up so that it duplicates the TNT both going forward as well as backwards. So this TNT duplicator can be used in two directions, which is good. This design here is one that I actually ran into. It's exactly like his, I guess, but I just noticed that you didn't really need that block in front, but it is useful as it keeps the TNT from being able to go any directions besides going down. And you can see without it, the TNT can sometimes end up going shot forward, as that one did right there. So I made up a whole bunch of different types of TNT dupers here that you think should work. And some do and some don't. It's just the way that the blocks are being updated. All of these are 12 blocks that are under, that way they can be pushed by a single piston. And some are two-way and some are just one-way. So I want to go over why some work and why some don't, and some of the rules that I think are occurring with them. So the first example here is some that do not allow the TNT to get updated. Because of the way that this is moved and which blocks move in which order, the TNT doesn't always get updated, therefore he doesn't know that he's being powered. So if I go ahead and put power to this one, you can see that the dead bush is making animation as if it's breaking off, both going forward as well as backwards. The TNT itself is not getting this update because of the order which the blocks are being moved. Although it appears all the blocks are moving at the same time, the way the game works is that it starts farthest away and starts slowly moving the blocks to the direction in which they're being moved one at a time, and depending on which one moves first, it can cause the TNT to update. Let's say this coral piece here doesn't get moved until after the TNT piece gets moved, in which case the TNT would not get updated by the coral plant. In some cases, like this design here, the TNT actually gets updated but doesn't duplicate. It just updates itself and it will drop, and you'll just lose in TNT. This is because most often TNT is touching several blocks. As you can see here, this TNT is touching this block as well as this block, and the block above it. In which case, when it moves forward, one of these blocks will come in a little bit later and move forward, in which case it will cause the TNT to update and just fall as a entity and not allow it to duplicate. So if I would power this one, you see that the TNT is just going to drop and you don't get any duplication out of it. This design here works. I believe Harvey said that ilmango made this design, and it's really nice because it allows the TNT to update, but it doesn't allow it to bounce upward, which can take a little bit of time as it moves upwards and then drops back down again. So if we power this one, you see that the TNT directly falls downwards. And if we go and remove the power, you see it also duplicates. And this one uses 2 coral on both sides so that it will cause the TNT to update going one direction as well as update going the other direction. This design here seems to have everything that's needed. It has the budded TNT as well as the coral plant, which when moved, you'll see that it creates upstates, being the particles will pop off of it, and it does it in both directions. But the problem here is the way that it updates doesn't allow the TNT to update. The most difficult problems with coming up with these type of designs is actually to get the coral to make that little breaking animation so that it shows the particles that's actually breaking. That's what's used to cause the TNT to update. And because it is really funky in which way you pull it, a lot of times it likes it when the coral is directly in the same line as the piston here. And if the coral isn't secure, like if it's not being held in by certain blocks or have blocks underneath of it to pull it, otherwise the coral can break off, especially if it's only being held up from the top, such as this one, and in which the blocks update. So here, one of the problems with this design is that you notice the coral is really close to the piston that's being pushed it, where the coral needs to be pretty much the farthest block away. That way it will create its update first and create the TNT to duplicate. I also made a couple of one-directional TNT duplicators. So you can see this one here, if it's powered one direction, it'll duplicate the TNT. But if you reverse it and pull it the other direction, then it won't duplicate it. This is good if you want a machine that goes and like drops TNT, but then when it comes back, it doesn't drop any TNT. The way that I came up with this design is that I noticed that the coral was duplicating when it had blocks that are on either side of it, kind of securing it, but mostly to do with if the block that was holding it had blocks on either side. So notice as this block here is sitting up right beside this block, which is holding the coral. So if I remove that block, you see that it doesn't cause it to duplicate, but if I put a block in there, then you notice that it does cause it to duplicate. So because of that, it makes sense that if there is a block on either side, so if I would put a block over here as well, let me just put it in front so I don't update the TNT. Now let me pull that block into its location, and then let me pull it back. You notice how the TNT now duplicates in both directions because there is a block on either side of the block that's holding the coral. This way you can easily make a two-way duplicator as the one I showed in the beginning of the video. But like I said, if you want to make it one way, you just put it in one block and then you power it, then it only duplicates in one direction. For fun, I also made this one-wide design, which is a one-way TNT duplicator because of the way that this coral is being secured by this block back here. You notice that it will duplicate TNT going that direction, but not going this direction. And you notice how the TNT, once it becomes an entity, it also gets the momentum pushed by this line, allows it to launch forward. And in that case, you don't have to worry about falling down on top of this coral. Makes this really cool, especially for kind of a really thin design if you want to put it in something really tight. I also came up with this design, which is also one wide, but it has the problem that the TNT itself, the entity could fall back onto here, in which case you want to pulse it a couple times to get rid of it. So I'm going to power this one. Notice how the TNT sit back there. If I power again, it launches it. If I power again, I can get rid of it if I power it fast enough. But if you're slow, then the whole thing will blow up like that. Now a design like this is still usable. You just have to keep it moving. Otherwise, it will fall back in here and stay in here. So you could use this for like the three-dimensional mini TNT query, but it's most likely to just use that design as it uses the same amount of blocks. Such a design such as this one here, which is quite small and you think would work, doesn't work. So let me just put this cart into it and bud that TNT. Problem mostly being as this coral is really close to this piston here, which doesn't really help it work at all. And this one actually updates because of the way that it's getting pushed forward. So let's go ahead and push it. And mostly I think what happened is that this coral is coming in and updating this TNT later on, allowing it not to duplicate, but instead of you just lose your TNT. And I made some other design which turned out to have the same type of problem. I want to talk a little bit more about this design, which I think will probably be the go-to design for a two-way TNT duplicator. It works really nice, as you see. And it only consists of 11 blocks, so that you can even add on another block to it. As well as this one, I think this might be the go-to one-way directional one, or the other one that I showed. But this one seems to work pretty good as long as you as long as you don't have the TNT fall on top of this while trying to move it some other direction. And this design is only 11 blocks, meaning that you can push it, including this piston, at the same time. You do need to make sure you push it correctly so that this coil here doesn't break off, as well as it doesn't update. You need to also secure this rail, so you push it like this, and you see that it duplicates, the coil is intact, everything is going fine. So you can easily use this to make like our three-dimensional mini TNT query, which you will probably see us do in the future. I put some trapdoors in here just to kind of make it look more slick, but these can be full blocks. The main thing is to not let this TNT to move in front of this line block so it launched forward. And this also has a block on top so that it doesn't hop upwards. And this block here is just another block so it causes it to duplicate. I really like these two designs, and I can't wait to implement them into some of the builds that the ProtoTech guys did in 1.12, which just need to have upgraded TNT Duper such as this one, such as the design that Pingu and I made, which was our three-dimensional mini TNT query, which could probably use something like this in it. Or like Comet, he made a perimeter maker, which has TNT that goes in one direction, so something like this would work. And Comet also made a block query, which could use TNT such as probably a modified version of this to come in there and destroy the blocks so that we get them as items. If you'd like to check out these videos as well as the videos that I talked about previously, they're all linked down in the description. I'll provide a copy of this world down in the description if you'd like to check it out and maybe test out your own designs. So there you have it, guys. New 1.13.1 TNT duplicating, as well as some really cool designs. So if you guys found this interesting, show me a like and share this with others. If you'd like to see more crazy inventions like this in the future, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell button to get notifications. And if you have any questions, be sure to ask me down in the comments. Bye-bye!